So a fun fact about my videos you probably didn't know. You know my thumbnail backgrounds? These ones? Originally, I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I knew how important they were, but I really didn't want to have to care. So, if you look at my first few thumbnails, you can see that I wasn't putting in the effort I should have been. Spent 2 weeks straight making each one, but didn't spend 10 minutes on the thumbnails. Then, on videos 3 through 11, I finally did start putting more effort in, and as you can see, I was trying to be more eye-catching, but I hadn't really settled on a style yet. I was trying to reuse as many elements as I could between videos, but each one was still taking a very long time. The 12th video is where you might finally recognize something. Studio Series Blitzwing. That's when I finally decided on what my background should look like going forward. Anyways, if you just look through all my videos, you probably already noticed that. But what you probably didn't notice is, in the background, in every single one of the thumbnails, you can still see that video's influence. Because the purple, that's Blitzwing's shadow. Originally, it was going to be a blue background, and then I took the grid off of a poster I made in college to petition for a video game development class to be added to the curriculum, and I slapped it over the background to make it more interesting. It worked, by the way. Me and a friend of mine got enough people to sign up for the class that it ended up happening. Anyways, it was blue on blue, which wasn't really working, so I made a purple drop shadow off of the Blitzwing and sandwiched it between the grid and the background. So, in every last one of my thumbnails, you can still feel the influence of that figure. But now, let's talk about the retool of the figure that I now have through the aid of Toolmen. Again, thanks man, you've been a massive help. Studio Series Bumblebee Cybertron Starscream. As a retool, it's almost shocking how much they managed to change about the look of this thing. Almost every single millimeter of him looks completely different and works completely different. It's borderline not even fair to call this a retool, they changed so much. And yes, I do find it ironic that on this figure that's widely known as a retool, I'm saying it's not one, and yet I'm just about the only person to define Earthrise Cliffjumper as one, which he totally is. That has way more in common with the Masterpiece Bumblebee than this does with the Studio Series Blitzwing. I really appreciate how cool and evil his wings are, though this one does have something stopping it from sitting all the way up like it's supposed to. They're just so angular and mean, and they have like a half dozen joints designed to get them into this shape, but the overall look of this guy isn't all that cool. It's fair to say that I think this is one design from the Bumblebee movie that I'm not super fond of. It's very busy, the shoulder pylons are paper thin and hanging off his back, not his collar like they are supposed to. What are these for? They're just sticking out of his kidneys for no good reason. He's got fairly dumpy proportions with monkey long arms and a tubby body, big old honkin' bell bottoms, and it's basically impossible to look cool in those. Every decade or so, someone tries to bring back bell bottoms, and just, no, stop it. They went away because they're hideous. It's a blessing we aren't cursed with these anymore. Anyways, fashion rant over, his null rays are hanging off his wings, and they can't be attached to his arms. Though this has been remedied by my YouTube and Twitter follower, Trigger. I will include links to the post and the files in the description. If I forget to do that, then please remind me and I'll fix that and reply to you with them. Anyways, his gun also isn't very cool. He holds it crooked and it doesn't really like being in his hand. Oh wait, I think you're supposed to flip his hand away and then plug it in like that? It looks even worse, and it still holds for crap. So he's a bit of an ugly duckling, but there are things to like here. The color layout is strong, it's got a great amount of intricate detail, the parts that need to be picked out in paint got it, all of it is crisp and clean, and it's obvious who this is supposed to be. So that's a massive improvement over the earlier movies. I will never get over the fact that Ironhide looked nothing like Ironhide, sounded nothing like Ironhide, acted nothing like Ironhide, didn't turn into the same thing that Ironhide turned into, didn't have the same accent as Ironhide, didn't use the same weapons, and wasn't even the same color. Seriously, it was not possible to know that this was Ironhide unless you were told that they were supposed to be the same character. So why make them the same character? This is a completely different guy. There's nothing even similar about them. If you want to put this guy in your movie and not Ironhide, then why are you depriving fans of ever having Ironhide by having this guy supposedly be him when it's in name only? Just let this guy be named Lead Dog or something. So maybe at some point we could have actually gotten real Ironhide? Unrelated rant number 2 of the video is now complete. But yes, there are things to like about this. The head is not one of them. What even is that face? This is easily the worst of the redesigned heads from the Bumblebee movie. He's all nose. I mean, look at that schnoz. It takes up like a third of his face. He looks like a cross between Dr. Smith and a monkey. Heavy on the monkey. It doesn't come across as treacherous and conniving. It just looks thuggish and stupid. I swear I expect him to sound like a 40k orc.
I'm painted red. That means I go faster.
Everything else is completely tolerable, but the face is so fucking ugly. I am seriously thinking about clipping off his nose because I honestly can't stand the look of him in robot mode due to this. I take the normal movie head over this. This ruins the rest of the figure by looking like a decrepit old man. I suppose this has been rant number 3, though this one was related. Is it clear how much I hate this head? The accessories he comes with is the gun, I hate it, and he comes with null rays you can't use, or at least not properly without an upgrade kit. He can wield them like actual guns, and I do think that this is better than the main gun because they aren't gun hands, and this thing was big and goofy to begin with anyways. It also really doesn't fit Blitzwing any better. Posability on this guy is a massive improvement over the Blitzwing, based pretty much solely on the fact that he doesn't want to rend himself to bits whenever you move his arms. Head pretty much only rotates. No butterfly. The arms can hinge out from the sides this far, and you can trick them for any amount more that you could possibly want. The best part of this, though, is that you can now rotate his arms forward without the whole backpack falling off. Honestly, they've kind of gone overkill on this issue, as every single aspect of those arms that led it to being an issue has been removed or changed when it probably only needed one of them to be fixed. For instance, the backpack no longer connects like Blitzwing's, the shoulders lock into the backpack to keep it from moving at all, and the shoulders are on much looser joints so they aren't putting undue stress on the connection they no longer have. Probably any one of those would have fixed the issue entirely, but hey, the end result is still a much more solid figure. Elbows with a way more than 90-degree bend, and wrists that have no swivel but do bend backwards, which would be useful for a sword wielder, but Starscream isn't one, so god damn it, just god damn it. He has a waist rotation so limited he might as well not have one. Legs can't really go back, but they can go just about everywhere else just fine. Knees only pull a 90, and monster ankle tilts. So on paper, this probably poses a little worse than Blitzwing, but in practice, its posing is better. Transformation on this guy is pure insanity, utter madness. So much of this guy ends up in places that you've never seen before, places they honestly shouldn't. You're supposed to take his gun and form a giant mangled bastard cannon hanging miles off the bottom of his alt mode, but that's fucking stupid. Instead, what I prefer to do is slot them through his chest cavity. They don't like fitting, but they will. Even gives him some VTOL exhausts right at the bottom. The resulting alt mode of that bonkers transformation is equally nuts. I mean, it's definitely a space plane, not sure if it qualifies as a tetrajet though. It looks pretty cool. The way the thrusts point up so it would always be driving itself down towards the ground unless it's flying like this is a bit silly though. And the undercarriage of this supposedly aerodynamic vehicle is beyond all reason and sense, and I don't really like the way the rubber nose cone has a big chunk scooped out of the top of it. Like, what advantage does that serve? It being made of rubber, you can end up pulling it off pretty easily, and if you take that opportunity to flip it around the other way, it's got a very bird-like aesthetic. The cockpit is also made of rubber, and the back is kind of a part-splosion, but I do have to give it credit that this vehicle also manages to feel huge somehow despite not necessarily being all that big. I wish you could get the wings to tilt up without them obviously being wrong, and you will pop these bits off. They really should have been pinned. And once again, yeah, this looks and feels like Starscream, like I can tell who it's supposed to be based solely on the color layout. So ultimately, I can give this a pretty solid recommend, despite its hideous head. If that doesn't bother you, then it's got a really solid alt mode, and the wackadoodle transformation is definitely unique and interesting, so if you are looking for something with a bit more challenge to it, it's got that going for it. And the alt mode is solid if you ignore all this. Outside of aesthetic and tolerance issues, this is a rock-solid Voyager, the kind of thing that Hasbro puts out and you go, why don't you always do this? It's not lazy or a ripoff, it is one of the most insanely heavily altered retools of all time, and it gets my stamp of approval. You don't need to run out and buy this. I don't think it's a must-have, but thumbs up if you want it. And that's not half of what I have to say, but it's enough of what I have to say. And I know you know what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you'll enjoy listening to me waste your time.